So for those of you who, since we have 50% of Green Raiders here, I'll make this very short. You know our history. We worked to help catalyze the green building industry starting back in 2004. We've been educating building professionals and homeowners on healthy building and comfortable, efficient homes for the people who live in it. We've worked with cities around California and now further national. And to date, we have rated over 70,000 homes and certified 8,000 building professionals. Of course, though, this was always just the beginning of a much longer journey towards sustainability. And what does that mean? So as the country locked down this spring, further exposing these deep-rooted intersecting challenges of housing affordability, racial injustice, rising income disparity, the climate crisis, all happening at once. We as Build It Green community were already in the midst of articulating a new vision for ourselves. What does it look like in today's context for a green building nonprofit to make a real statement? And we want to use our position as a green building industry catalyzer to move the industry forward again. We are committed to a new vision that doesn't just think about the four walls of the home, or in our conversation today, the ADU, but really starts to foster the health, wealth, and wellness of an interconnected web of personal, community, and bioregional well-being. And we think that ADUs have a place to play in that much larger picture. For those of you who may or may not know, ADUs obviously are not a new phenomenon. They have been going on for many years in California, around the world, around the United States, called many things, casitas, mother-in-laws, studios in the back, whatever you wanted to call them. But in the past 5 years, there's been a really strong dedicated effort to positioning ADUs as part of the housing solution, a housing solution to the housing crisis. And in 2017, a series of laws and regulations were put into place that really catalyzed the industry. Since then, in California, the rate of ADU growth has gone up by 1,000%. We had, I think, around 1,700 applications for ADUs in 2017, and by 2020, that number was right around 14,000. So you can really see this skyrocketing, and we'll talk a little bit more about what we see is the role of ADUs in this very complex environment that we're in. We are joined today by three very unique perspectives on this conversation, who join us in our belief that ADUs have a strong role to play. And I will get to the point because I'm here to hear them talk. I'm sure you are as well. First, I'd like to introduce Darin Ranelletti, who is the Policy Director for Housing Security in the Mayor's Office at the City of Oakland. He's working on a multi-pronged approach to addressing the housing crisis in Oakland and much further beyond. Next to him, depending on where they're located on your screen, is Denise Pinkston. She's a partner at TMG Partners and founding board president of the Casita Coalition, an organization working to coalesce small construction building efforts with an organized, collaborative, networked approach. And also joining us is Bill Reed, principal at Regenerative Group, co-founder of the LEED rating system, founding board member of the USBGC. And his practice works to develop frameworks for managing integrative whole systems design. Really excited to have you all. Thank you so much for being here. So let's get started. As we mentioned, we are in a very turbulent time. The intersection of these structural inequities, climate change, pandemic, right, is resulting in widespread insecurity at all levels for many people. Talking about these accessory dwelling units can seem pretty small in this big context. Darin, in your current role at the city, how are you positioning ADUs as a part of this broader solution to providing housing security at the City of Oakland?
Sure. First, I want to say thanks, Ray and Build It Green, for this fantastic session and really happy to be here. And I'm really interested in hearing the other panelists as well. So I'm going to provide you with the Oakland perspective. In Oakland, we believe in a multi-pronged strategy towards addressing housing instability and promoting housing security. We believe that we need to produce more housing at all income levels, especially lower cost housing that the market isn't currently producing on its own. Preserve existing housing, especially existing affordable housing, and protect residents from displacement. This is often called the 3P approach: produce, preserve, and protect. And we think that ADUs fit really nicely into that framework because they have so many benefits. They benefit the occupant of the ADU because it provides a home for them to live in. They provide flexibility and options for the owner. The owner can use it to house a friend or a family member, or they can rent it out to a tenant for some income, or they can move in it to themselves as their circumstance change. So that flexibility in the housing stock and for the personal options of the owner provides tremendous value, not just to that owner, but to the community in Oakland at large. You know, those additional options allow homes and neighborhoods to be more resilient, not so rigid. ADUs bring that strength of diversity and diversity of housing types and diversity of people to what is otherwise the monoculture of single family neighborhoods. So in Oakland, our strategy to promote ADUs is based on the research that we've done. We did a citywide survey and focus groups and looked at what other jurisdictions are doing and really came up with strategies focused on two areas. One is around improving and updating the city's permitting system around ADUs, and two, providing financial resources to owners to build ADUs. Even though ADUs are relatively inexpensive to build compared to, say, multifamily housing, on a per unit basis, they're still pretty expensive to build. And so not a lot of folks have that amount of money just sitting around. Some do, but most don't. So in terms of the permitting process, we've updated our website, we've updated our application form to make it more user-friendly. We now are taking online application submittals. And prior to the shelter in place, we actually had extended our in-person permit counter hours into the evening so that homeowners, who have day jobs can come and get information after work. And now we're all online, so our in-person permit counter isn't open, but that's something eventually when we reopen that we will look to reinstate. And then for financial assistance, we're in the process of developing a financial assistance program to help owners build ADUs using some city funds as well as funds from philanthropic partners. And our approach on financial assistance is, I think, somewhat different than what many jurisdictions are doing, because we envision two components to the financial assistance. One is a sub-program that would serve likely higher income owners that can afford to build an ADU. They just need a favorable loan product. But the ADU itself would be restricted to a lower income resident. Then there would be a second program that would primarily serve lower income owners to cover all or most of the cost of building the ADU, but there would be no restrictions on the income of the occupant. We looked at the data in Oakland and found that Black owners and Black tenants are the most at risk of displacement, and that we have a number of lower income Black homeowners that are at risk, many of them seniors on fixed income that would love to build an ADU. And in the folks that we spoke with, those types of income restrictions that are very common in many jurisdictions didn't provide the kind of flexibility that owner was looking for in terms of renting the unit out for market rate for some additional income that's needed, or housing a family member or a friend or whatever. So that provides options to the owner. It adds value to the property, and then it adds wealth to the family. So in this way, the way we think about ADUs in Oakland is that they're no longer just buildings and housing units, but they also are now a way to address inequality, promote community stabilization, and advance racial justice.
Thank you so much. I heard some really great themes in there, and it sounds like a lot of this, I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's such an equity forward lens. I mean, even something as simple as opening up the counter later so that more people can attend, making sure that you're providing different types of financial options for different income brackets. I think it's really interesting how you're working to not just retain the wealth of particular types of communities, but also increase it, and find new ways that are flexible over time for these communities to adapt and respond. Thank you so much. And Denise, zooming a little bit further outside of Oakland, taking our little drone shot of California, what is Casita Coalition doing with ADUs, and what kind of trends are you guys starting to observe across California?
Sure. So everything Darin said, I agree with and want to wholeheartedly endorse. And I think one of the Casita Coalition members, we just were founded less than a year ago. So we became a thing in December of 2019. But the people who founded it and our founding board members and members of the coalition statewide were very intimately involved in drafting California's landmark ADU laws that effectively remove the initial barrier. If you think of barriers to housing as like bricks in a wall, you can remove a barrier or two barriers. It doesn't mean the wall goes down. We removed all of the zoning barriers, more or less, using a series of state laws from 2016. The final one took effect January 1st, 2020. So they're now legal in every neighborhood in the state of California. Not only can you have one ADU, but you can have two ADUs in every neighborhood, one of them being small, called a junior. We have eliminated mitigation impact fees for units that are smaller than 750 square feet. In many sites, you don't have to provide additional off-street parking. So for those of the folks on the call who are familiar with the zoning barriers that keep a homeowner from ever going to the zoning counter at all, most of those are now gone, and we're seeing second generation barriers. And the barriers that were removed by legislation were well documented academically and throughout the world, where people have done good work removing land use barriers to accessory dwelling units and have tested what works and what doesn't. And the rationale for a lot of that was much of what Darin discussed, but also just people can't have a home that's a fixed box. This is one of the things Darin said. When their lives change over time, their families change over time, their community needs change over time. You know, I've got my college kids back at home. They thought they were gone, and so did I. My mother-in-law wishes she had somebody living with her alone, and COVID obviously has amplified these problems astronomically. And so families are struggling just to take care of themselves. And now we finally have some flexibility within our box on the properties that we own, which represents the wealth of many, many American families. So the zoning barriers are now gone. Homeowners can do this in theory. And now we're seeing the next generation of barriers. Oh, not every city is as helpful as Oakland. I would venture to say many cities are not as helpful as Oakland. Maybe they don't have a Darin. They don't have staffing to kind of figure out what's necessary and figure out the next steps. Maybe they have elected officials who are lukewarm about the policy to begin with, or maybe oppositional, and so they're not thrilled with spending extra time making it easier for homeowners to get from initial idea to implementation. So we're seeing that, and there's a need for working with cities to help them. A lot of cities need help. They don't have the resources to have a housing department. And so Casita Coalition was formed to work on this second generation of barriers that we couldn't see back when all we were worried about was, are they legal or not? Now they're legal, and we're like, oh, there are other problems. So working with local governments, working with lenders, so that they can start to bring loan products to market to make these more widely available. Work with builders to bring down the cost. So it becomes more like ordering a car from Carfax on your iPhone that's delivered to your property for you and then plugged in, that's net zero energy right out of the gates, and less like hiring 10 specialists to site build your unit in your backyard, because that makes it more accessible to everybody. And then finally, this is all very new. I think something like 40% of the people on a Build It Green call who I would argue are in the cone, the knowledge cone, generally speaking, or they wouldn't be interested, they didn't know about ADUs. So if this relatively well-informed audience motivated to get on a Zoom call with Build It Green about ADUs doesn't know much about them, imagine what the rest of the world knows, which is nothing or very little. So the uptick we've seen is striking given all of these additional remaining barriers. The fact that California, since the first law took effect in 2017, has built 15,000 ADUs by individual homeowners without a lot of information, without cities who were really necessarily actively helping them, and without lending products, is remarkable. So imagine what we could do if we could work on those second generation barriers. So everyone knows about it. Low income homeowners have equal access as higher income homeowners who can afford to buy consultant help, and the price point comes down. So that's really what the Casita Coalition is excited about doing, is bringing down these remaining barriers so that homeowners throughout the state can create flexibility and options for their families and their communities. And I think that fits very neatly into what you're interested in, which is regenerative housing and green building. One of the barriers to ADUs is codes that were developed for homes, for a whole house. So Title 24 imagines limited window, building envelope, energy efficiency, things that if you design into a 2,000 square foot structure, you still get a glass line. If you're trying to get a glass line in a 200 square foot structure, how do you meet Title 24? What do you do if you're renovating your garage and you have 2x4s and you can't fit R40 insulation in the wall section? So you have to fur it out to 6 inches to get enough insulation in the wall. So now your wall in a teeny space just took up a lot more interior usable area. And this housing type is the most energy efficient green way to build. It hasn't been proven in California. I invite Build It Green to help that. But everyone in Oregon who's worked on this has documented, including the state of Oregon, these little homes are the future of green building. They are cost effective. They don't have as much stuff. People don't use as much heat. They can't buy as much furniture because it won't fit. So it forces us to live with less in every neighborhood, on every property where we reuse roads and infrastructure and building systems. So this is really, it's not just a housing policy. It's not just an equity policy. It's also an environmental policy. And I think organizations that can develop some of these other important storytelling and kind of code thinking abilities are really critical to roll out ADUs in the 6th largest economy in the world, where still a lot of people don't even know it's possible. So I'm really excited that this conversation is happening.
Yeah, thank you so much. And dovetailing right off of that into the sort of idea of these being not just this currently is a housing policy, but as you said, this could be part of this could be a strategic part to an environmental policy here in California and helping us reach those goals. Bill, you literally are the expert on LEED, right? So these tiny homes, let's say that they are inherently green, they use less materials, they consume less energy, they promote urban density, all of these things that Denise just spoke to. But what are some other ways that we need to be thinking about these structures?
Wow. First of all, I want to say to Darin and Denise, wow. I don't know what we're doing in Massachusetts. I'm sitting in Boston right now, and I'm aware that I don't know a heck of a lot about ADUs, even though I'm a supporter. Now I need to get specific. So thanks for that kick in the pants. So going back to the beginning of LEED, and I can speak with authority about that, LEED was never intended to define sustainability. It was intended for market transformation. And it's done that. And the question we were always holding is, what's next? Where do we stop? Do you actually stop? And so the idea of efficiency, which is extremely important, is only 50%, if you will, of the story, if you can put a percentage on it. The other half is, so we're slowing down the degradation. How do we actually heal the systems we've destroyed? And we haven't been doing a very good job at that the last 50 years. We're still in the negative column for sure. So building by building, while it's important, is not going to have the effect and the massive change needed in our culture. And so this is where regeneration comes in. And regeneration is not about a building itself. It's about engaging and developing the people that are engaged with building, living in it, supplying it, operating, building culture, if you will. How does that building culture actually become inspired to leverage what people are already excited about? Climate change, racial equity, water pollution, habitat connectivity. You can name all these things, because I just want to point out that if we solve climate change with some magic cold fusion technology, we will still destroy the planet, because climate change is a symptom of a lack of effective thinking about how the living system works. And so regeneration is about rebirthing that connectivity. So the way this happens in 2 minutes, hope to be able to explain something, is that when we build a building, each building, ADU, it doesn't matter what it is, it's an acupuncture point to engage community and place. So we look at place as the smallest unit of effective design. How big is here? The place that we're living, the warp and woof of social and ecological health. And by engaging the building culture and the community in how they are able to serve the potential for health in that place, is what each project can actually leverage. Maybe just a little, but if we're all working together in service of the health of this place, that actually informs in the nature of the ADUs that we're building. And the ADUs, of course, are then informing and inspiring us and giving us the opportunity to engage each other in a different way. So it's putting on a different hat. It's not necessarily more work, but it is thinking differently. And so we then align many of the people in the places and integrate them in service of the health of the whole system. Now that's pretty powerful in our experience, because it gives meaning to people. And we used the church, if you will, in abstract terms, used to provide meaning. We no longer really have that. And instead of politics and race and religion getting in the way, the health of our home is actually a unifying concept. And if we can actually align around the health, working together towards the health of our home, building collaboratively, functioning as a building culture, we can actually begin to have massive change. And we have experience with this all over the world. We know it works. It's very powerful. The thing about this is it's not episodic. It doesn't happen just because you have a meeting once in a while. It becomes a practice. This is where big really is a great opportunity, because we can actually consistently engage and support each other and interact and integrate in service of the health of our neighborhoods and the communities that we live in. Now we're talking about significant change, not to denigrate at all the efficiency and effectiveness of each ADU contributing to the reduction of carbon, et cetera, but it is more than that. So it's energizing and launching the power of creative thinking and people to work together in service of the larger system. I hope that held together.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is that if we think, we have quite a spectrum here. We're talking, Denise is bringing up Title 24 and the specific regulations of the width of a particular type of furring for the outside. And then what you have gone and done is blown us out of the water and said, yes, it is absolutely about that level of efficiency and rewriting those building codes so that they match what the efforts that we're trying to pursue. But if we get too dialed into the details and we don't think about the new potential use cases that these ADUs have at the neighborhood scale, right? In COVID right now, we have learning pods for children in neighborhoods where they're not going back to school. So some parents have the luxury of partnering up with other parents and having learning pods. These might not be dwelling units in the next couple of years. This might be something else that we consider at the level of community or neighborhood, and enhancing the wealth and the well-being of the occupants, not just the building itself, and not just making sure that the codes are fit for purpose or the financials are fit for purpose, but that we're really thinking about it more broadly in terms of a potentially like a new asset class for a neighborhood.
Yeah.
And what could be done if we thought about ADUs as an entry point or an acupuncture point for neighborhood transformation.
Yeah, and the other thing that it helps us do, and this may be a little too abstract, is that instead of trying to solve problem by problem, which is impossible, by the way, you can't do it. because one problem births other problems. We need to be looking at the system, and the smallest manageable whole system is the place we live. And with that, we actually can have high leverage, and then engaging people where they are energized, not telling them what they need to do. But if somebody's interested in racial justice, great, that's what they ought to be working on. But when they are actually working together, they realize, oh, instead of in silos, you're working on that, I'm working on this. If we combine forces, we can be really effective. And so it's actually birthing that possibility of concerted benefit. And again, I want to say that the point of this is that it's not just episodic. It isn't a check the box. It is a practice over time, because transformation takes a long time.
Yeah.
And it's a way to be in the world, not just a way to do in the world. Okay, I'll stop.
Thanks, Bill. But I think you set us up for the next question that's going to go to all of you. Is what are some of these broader long-term opportunity areas for the community that's joining us today, for Big's community, raters, builders, architects, designers? What are those long-term opportunity areas for this community to think about and explore? Denise, maybe I'll start with you, because you started talking about some of these next generation problems. We want their minds already going there. What are some of those other, maybe one or two long-term opportunity areas for the folks who are joining us today?
Sure.
And then we'll go into the short-term ones, but right now, broaden the expand.
Well, I completely agree with everything Bill said, and the systems thinking, the present, optic on this is the guiding light. But when you get to writing zoning code, you got to kind of get down into the weeds. So yes, the weeds matter, because big ideas die in the small places. So I think we have the opportunity to work those systems so that they work together, so that the big idea and the big transformational vision carries all the way down to what actually works for individual homeowners who are spending their nest egg to create a building. Because it's not like a big developer, right? Where you can have long lists of rules and lots of fees and 10 different professionals engaged. That homeowners glazed over 3 minutes ago. So part of what, as a profession, we need to do, our next gen opportunity, is to make it easy for people. Make it inexpensive. Make it simple. Take away those weedy barriers that prevent people from doing these one at a time, baby step. I'm going to transform my family's life by having intergenerational living, or I'm going to, whatever that transformation moment is, people won't do it, or they won't do it legally, safely, with a building permit, if we don't work through these knots in the system to get to the bigger vision. And I think that's where highly trained professionals come in. Most of us know the problems in our silo, whether it's a zoning problem or a fee problem or an engineering problem or a lending problem, or the broker can't get an appraisal so the homeowner can get a loan. Like, we all know what we know. And so we need to take the opportunity that Bill discussed, where we start talking to each other so that together we create a single, more unified voice on a very new tool that really couldn't have existed for us 2 years ago, because it wasn't legal. There was no point in having people really understand ADUs, because they couldn't do them anywhere. What was the point of a bank creating a lending product if they could only do one loan in any given community? We have, as Bill, you pointed out, we have made a market that didn't exist. And so how do we shape and guide that market so that it creates the policy outcomes we desire, which Darin described and Bill, you described, using our individual action in a more cohesive way. So one opportunity for all of us is join groups like the Casita Coalition, or whatever is your variant, and encourage communities to take some next steps so that homeowners are not afraid to go to the zoning counter. Because, I'm a professional, and even I'm afraid to go to the zoning counter. How do we make that simpler or easier or translatable? How do we help cities have better websites, better communication tools? How do we help professionals explain this to the non-professional. So it's really how do we translate our vision into simple concepts and then get it out and actually do that work, you know, make it easier, make it simpler, make it lower cost, bring down the barriers. And that is the mission of the Casita Coalition. So I invite you all to join us. There's a little join button on our website, www.casitacoalition.org. We're brand new, so be patient as we get ramped up. We don't have a long-term history like Build It Green, but it's a lot of very passionate people who have spent their lives in planning, real estate development, urban design, who are tired of getting nowhere and who found finally a place where we can help and make a difference. And our collaboration is really powerful because it enables places like Oakland to embrace the possibility and really figure out how to make it work as an anti-gentrification, anti-displacement tool. Mm-hmm. In Marin County communities and Sonoma County, it's being used as a wildfire housing stabilization tool for neighborhoods that are threatened and homeowners that are thrown out. This is a quick way to rehouse people who've been displaced and to create some more options in the community. So how do we help communities embrace the power of the tool and how we train them and give them technical assistance, helping communities, homeowners, and building professionals talk to each other and together.
Great. Well, as usual, it seems you have set us up quite well for moving into some of these bigger questions. You're talking about technical assistance, right? Some of these financial products that need to catch up with this new market. Also, these building codes that need to catch up with this new market. Really translating those into tangible things that people can access, A, and B, take action in helping to develop, right? Darin, what are some of these things that you're thinking about, these long-term opportunity areas of ADUs? How do you see it starting to shape the market here in Oakland? And what should this community be thinking about?
Yeah, I'm really inspired by this conversation. Just love what Denise and Bill are saying. And something that Bill said really struck me around this culture of building. And what we're talking about with ADUs is really community-based and built housing. And I think that the expertise within a Build It Green community could really advance and further that concept. I think the idea that since ADUs are smaller, they tend to be built by local individuals or small firms. They're not built by big construction firms or big international design firms. So it's a local good that is designed and built for the community, with the community, by the community. I think we really need to advance that and point that out. I think in the ADU world, there isn't that recognition yet of ADUs being that. So I think that Build It Green could help further that. And then the other thing that is I think on our horizon is just the emerging innovative construction technologies. There's certainly a big intersection between that and ADUs. ADUs tend to be, small and relatively simple structures, so that makes them, lends them to experimenting with new innovations, whether it's materials or offsite construction. There's been an explosion in companies that are doing offsite modular ADUs, and so I think that will continue. And so, I think that ADUs could, take what works in innovation on a small scale and test that, and then it could be used in other other sectors in the construction industry. So, I'm really curious to see where that's going to go. We're seeing a lot of interest in that in Oakland, and I expect that will continue.
Great. So you talked a little bit, just to recap, around this real opportunity for this to be a way to build workforce development at the most local, individual, person-to-person, home-to-home level that you can imagine, which increases the capabilities and the capacities that exist within that community, right? It's already becomes, just the knowledge itself becomes a new community asset. And then some of these building systems, what does that look like if you have individuals either A, cobbling things together based on their own curiosity, or leveraging this incredible community here of designers, builders, and architects and saying, what can we do together that really is unique to Oakland, or salvaging potentially firewood from our Berkeley mountains and turning them into a supply chain here, like a very localized supply chain for building materials. We don't know, but I think it'd be really worth exploring that question. Bill, over to you. What are some of these bigger opportunity areas that you think exist for this particular community with regard to ADUs?
Well, I'm inspired by this whole idea of the small local builders. You know, this is not about a big merchant developer helicoptering in and developing, 500 units. These people are, sorry, that sounds so abstract. But anyway, these builders and architects and community members and zoning officials and building supply people and the people cutting the lumber up in Berkeley, I don't know where that is, and and all of those people are related to each other. And yet we aren't as conscious about that as we could be. And so I like to tell architects, this is going to sound a little perverse, your project, if you're interested in sustainability, your project is not the project. The project is sustainability. And by the way, I'll extend that. You can't have sustainability without regeneration. And let me follow that thread for a minute. We are part of an evolutionary process. Life is not static. It continually changes. And yet we build and we think about sustainability as a set piece, right? We're done with that. Things change. And so regeneration is about paying attention and communicating with each other about what's going on and how to respond. And so, in fact, your project is the project, but it's both. It's the system and your project. And they have this incredibly rich dialogue that we really don't think about because that's not my job, right? Well, guess what, folks? We're in trouble. It's everybody's job. And so this is an opportunity to actually begin to coalesce. And this is where COVID has been such a gift. We actually are now focused closer to home these days. And I think it's a matter of picking that impetus up and carrying it forward. So Dwight Eisenhower said, when you have trouble solving a problem, enlarge it. Don't make it smaller. And I would think that we would all agree that we're having trouble solving this sustainability problem. So enlarge it and start working together. And the idea of practicing together in this building culture idea is, and community culture, is how do we create a culture that actually starts somewhere, but then builds a field that continually attracts others to play. Just like a good party attracts people, this could be a good party. So I'll let it go with that.
That sounds great. And I hope Build It Green gets to play the role of host to that very fun party. And I think we're kicking it off a little bit here. Darin, back to you really quickly. Bill and Denise just gave us some really great tangible ways to get involved. With Denise, she was saying, join the Casita Coalition, get involved at the state level, join a commission. If anybody wants to take action tomorrow on policy reform, go talk to Denise. Darin, what about you? What are some key, take action today, things that the folks that were joining us can do?
Go out and build ADUs, folks. This is a really talented audience, and there's lots of opportunities out there. So the more the better. So go forth and build. And then, Denise, I've got my website to promote. So if you search City of Oakland ADUs, you'll find the webpage of the city's planning and building department. And we have an ADU page that has a button that you can also sign up for updates. We use that to send out notifications on changes to code or changes to policies, but also we use that when we are seeking feedback from folks around what's working and what's not working. We always are looking to improve. And so that would be an opportunity for these audience members to provide that kind of insight and input into the city so that we can do better.
Great, thank you.
And I took my action. I joined Darin's web. I didn't know that. So I just clicked on it. I'm ready to roll.
That's great. And Denise and everybody who's with us, I have to obviously plug our action steps here at BIG. One of the first things that y'all can do is go to our pilot program website, and you should be able to pre-register for what we're calling our Regenerative Design Insight 100 level series where we'll get a lot more information. Bill will be joined by Joel Glansberg of Regenerative Institute, and taking us through essentially like a set of taster courses and workshops so that we can better unpack these ideas together. What does it mean to be very place sourced and enlarge the problem and then still be able to do anything about it? What's working currently that needs to continue to be amplified, and what's missing? And I think very importantly to this group, how is it going to support my practice and create more opportunity for me and the people I work with? So you, if you're interested today, can go to our website, pre-register. We'll be sending out information on that. And then I guess to Bill's point, join the party. This is the first of a series of fall forums where we are going to be unpacking all of the topics that were covered today around technical assistance, workforce development, new financial products, new building systems, different types of policy interventions that we can be taking to help translate those big state level ideas into our local communities. So join us for the party. And with that, we are very short on time, but we haven't received any real questions from the audience. So wanted to say, if any of you have questions, please put them in the Q&A, and we have a few minutes to take some of those questions. Okay, Colleen says, I disagree that ADUs contribute to wildfire stabilization and providing a quick way to manage displacement. We submitted plans for a modest ADU to the city of Petaluma in mid-June, and we still don't have a permit. This speaks to that translation between state policy and local policies. Let's hope big Casita Coalition and the City of Oakland can help streamline. We certainly will help. We can't get there one at a time. Thank you, Colleen. Denise, do you have anything to say about that?
That is a perfect example of how cities need help to, or assistance to become ADU friendly. Mm-hmm. Not everywhere is like Oakland, and Petaluma may have issues. The county of Sonoma, Napa-Sonoma County, on the other hand, where Petaluma is located, has one of the best ADU friendly websites in the state and is really working on their streamlining. So it is absolutely the case that California has 450 cities and 450 different entities administering these programs with different visions and different capacities. So, if this network of professionals can start talking, maybe we can come up with best practice guidance for local agencies and then hand it out like candy to people, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel in their city. Yeah, we make it easy, and so I think certainly that's on the Casita Coalition's to-do list, is to try and help cities get there, because it's hard. It's hard to do the staff work to do. Darin's been working on ADU programs for what, 2 years, 3 years? Full time with grants money. So
2015, 2016. Yeah.
So a long time with some extra grant funding to actually get it done. There are very few cities in California that are resourced and have this as a political priority for the resources they have. So let's learn all of Oakland's lessons and translate them out elsewhere.
Yeah, I think LA City and LA County have also been doing some really interesting work around ADUs and lowering the barriers to access as well. And so and maybe this is a great place for us to pick up our conversation after this, Denise, is we'd love to be able to bring together the folks who are working on it in LA, in Oakland, and in Sonoma County and say, what are our lessons? How can we learn from each other? And what is a set of best practices so that we can help homeowners like Colleen get those ADUs up and ready, especially as fire season is proving to be really, really, really difficult in the coming years. Okay, we have some really great questions, a little bit more drilled down into some of those building systems. Is anybody able to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of prefab and city processing? Like, would it speed up process if there were prefab units, I suppose? Maybe Darin can speak to that a little bit?
Sure. We are getting lots of prefab, and by that, I think they mean built off-site. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of emerging technology. Lots of companies are doing it. So I'd say that Every city is in a different place. Oakland is getting a lot of modular housing, both ADUs as well as multi-unit buildings. The ones that tend to do better, so to speak, from an ease of permitting are those that, if they're completely built off-site, are permitted under the state's factory-built housing program. So that means that the state inspects the unit, and all of the city needs to do is just inspect the installation and foundation and utilities. So I know there's a lot more to it than that. It's not that easy, but if you if you're doing prefab, I would check to see if they are certified in the state's factory-built housing program. If they're not, it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means that some of these packs and panelized systems, it's going to require more discussion with the jurisdiction's building department. And so that's where it's a good idea to reach out ahead of time and explain to them what's going on. And to Denise's point, every jurisdiction is different. And that's a problem with housing and development and construction in general, that, in the Bay Area, we have 101 jurisdictions that sort of do their own thing, and that's a problem. But yeah, reach out early and often.
Great. There's some really interesting questions here, but one I really like is an aspect that we haven't really touched on that much, but Denise, in one of our earlier conversations, we talked a little bit about how can realtors help? What is the role of realtors in all this?
Yeah, they're a huge part of this housing ecosystem in individual communities. They're in every community. They know the city, they know the homeowners, they understand the permit process, and they see every new home that goes up for sale. So they know what's going on in their market. Mm-hmm. And what we're seeing in the Bay Area, where there were some of the early adopters, as well as in Los Angeles, where some early ADU adopters got started before the state law changes happened, is that they're the best ambassador to the homeowner community. They can help new buyers understand the opportunities. They help those new buyers find and qualify for mortgage products that allow them, for example, there are some loans that do an acquisition rehab loan. There's a HUD acquisition rehab loan program that helps first-time home buyers. Realtors tend to know about these things, and they're able to guide homeowners to tools to help them, whether that's helping them find a contractor or an architect, or figure out what they need to get permitted and what they can kind of look the other way on. Realtors are an awesome resource, and they deal with the MLS, which currently doesn't actually record ADUs in a uniform way across the state of California. So one of the problems we're confronting now in financing is there's no standard for appraisers to evaluate an ADU. Is it a construction cost? Well, there's no comps, like separate standalone ADUs at scale. So they won't comp it on a construction cost basis. They want to comp it on a value basis, which is hard to do because there's not a lot of data about what an ADU adds to the value of a single family home. So homeowners who are trying to go get a loan product find that the appraiser says the ADU is worth 60 cents on the dollar. So realtors are in conversations with appraisers and banks, and the more we can explain to our little ecosystem, so realtors talking to homeowners, talking to banks, talking to mortgage brokers, talking to appraisers, explaining how this can work, and then getting those groups to talk to their people. So we need uniform appraisal standards for ADUs. We don't have them. It'd be really great if the MLS and all of the jurisdictions throughout California had a box to tick saying there's an ADU. There's no box today. Just so learning and figuring out where the barriers are and staying in dialogue so we can collectively talk about it and figure out where to go is super helpful. So Casita Coalition members have tried and failed on some of these fronts already, realizing we need more voices. Realtors are great. And they also are very well organized. California Association of Realtors is a partner of ours. We talk about policy in California state law. The National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals is on our board. So realtors are great ambassadors and experts in their own community. So love the realtors because they help everybody in those transactions.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we have we have many more interesting questions around like, how can ADUs be considered like a set of ADUs and co-living units? Some questions around specific regulations for let's see here. Something about the 2020 building guidelines. Anyhow, what we want to do is we're going to send some of these questions that we didn't get to today to you guys, Denise, Darin, and Bill, and maybe you guys can put some thoughts on, and what we'll do is we'll do a little wrap-up blog and get to some of the questions that we didn't get to before. But before we sign off, any last thoughts for this group of people? And Bill, I'll start with you because Denise and Darin seem to field most of those Q&As. Any last thoughts here as we wrap up today?
No, I think we've said a lot. And I think it's not an, I just want to make sure that people are holding, this is not an either or.
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is everything we've spoken about. And Denise talked about the details. What did you say, Denise? I think there was anyway, the details can really kill us if we mess up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just as important. And it's just as important to think out here. And it's an iterative process. So that's where I leave it.
Great, thank you. Last thoughts from Darin and Denise?
I agree with Bill. It's an iterative process, and we're just beginning this process together. We have created an opportunity that didn't exist, and it's up to us as design professional, government, policy thought leaders to embrace this moment and harness the possibility and bring it, help it, use it to create the outcomes that we think are necessary, whether that's sustainability, equity, inclusion, housing choice and opportunity, or it gets as granular as I just need to take care of my family. Mm-hmm. It's great, it has all the others benefits. I just want to know how I'm going to take care of my mom because I don't want her in a senior center anymore. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, all of that lives together. And we have a moment to bring all those threads together in a weave that is potentially transformational. So I think, as Bill said, it's not either or, it's yes and. It's all of the above.
Thank you. And Darin?
I'll just say that transformation is needed and doesn't happen overnight and isn't easy. And so as folks are encountering problems at permit counters or with reluctant building officials or disagreements amongst professionals, just have the patience and just keep pushing. And, as Denise said, this market was sort of created overnight. So there's still a lot of stuff to figure out. And so don't let those little setbacks get you down. I think we're really on the road to real exciting transformation here, and we just need to all keep at it.
Wonderful, thank you all. And so I would be remiss not to plug our opportunities here at BIG to keep the conversation going. Again, please consider signing up for some of our future fall forums where we'll go through much more of this information in detail. And if you're curious about what the hell Bill was talking about with this regenerative development, please do sign up, pre-register, and you will be the first to know when we get started, so you can figure it out.
Was it that inscrutable?
It was great. Anyway, go to builditgreen.org, pilot programs, and in the meantime, thank you all for spending an hour of your day with us. Darin, Denise, and Bill, thank you for the prep. Thank you for being here with us. And most importantly, thank you for the work that you're doing to make these smaller homes not just accessible, but real instruments for transformation for our communities. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Denise.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.